Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a bit different. I'm going to invite more guest speakers onto my channel, and today I invited Silvan Buess, who is going to talk about psycho-spiritual development. And so he's going to talk about soul and shadow work, what are your shadows and how can you transform your shadows to live the life you want to live. On a side note, it's the first time I have a guest speaker on my channel, and we had some issues with background noise sometimes, so I tried to avoid that next time, and I hope you forgive me for this. This is Jonas, and in this channel we talk about authenticity and personal growth. We provide tools and ideas that help you gain clarity, freedom and fulfillment in your life. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing. Hi everyone, I'm super happy to introduce you to Silvan from Zurich. He's a friend of mine, and he has an Instagram channel where he talks about psycho-spiritual development, and yeah, he's an actor as well, and so he's gonna talk about psycho-spiritual development and basically how you can use it to develop the life you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, at first you need to, if you want to work with the stuff I say, or if you want to work with me, you need to want a psycho-spiritual life. So if you don't really are into spirituality or the mystic traditions, you probably won't like what I do. But if you do like that, like yoga or the Veda tradition or the Christian mystic tradition, or even sometimes, well, a little bit of Kabbalah I have also in my how to say, in my toolbox. But mostly it's the Vedic traditions, the Buddhist traditions, Zen also, but also like all the work of C.G. Jung, if you know C.G. Jung, the very famous psychologist, right? And I probably will do some how do you say, some links to his work, because he very much represents the stuff I do, because he was very much into the mystic processes and the creative processes, even if he didn't quite call it that way, but he really did it. You know, that was kind of the thing that I liked most about him, that he really was going into the mystical journey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you had to define what is psycho-spiritual development for you, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, I see human development, if you want to see it holistically, it is a process of a psychological side, or a psychological healing journey, and after that it's a spiritual journey. So and of course it's both. If you want to have kind of a holistic life, in my opinion, you need to have both. You need to have the psychological journey, healing journey of all that happened in your life, and after that you will need to go on a whole different journey, kind of, if you want to kind of separate it, on a whole different journey to your spiritual development, or your spiritual individuation, and getting in a soul-centric kind of life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what is a soul-centric life for you? So what is like kind of your, let's say, definition of soul, and how can soul actually, whatever, like connection to soul, enrich your life, or what is your relationship to soul?
Yeah. Well, for me, the soul is, as the Vedic tradition says, it's kind of the godly, the divine spark. Okay, so it's kind of that part that ventured from the divine source into every human being, and also in every being itself, and it carries our most sacred personality, if you want to say it that way. So and if someone says, well, if you are enlightened, you lose your personality, I don't think so. I think if you are enlightened, you still have your personality, but it depends if you rooted your personality in the soul, or in the ego, like in very simple terms.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of the difference. If you when you live a soul-centric life, you root your life in the soul, in the individuality of your soul, in kind of your very own mix of the archetypes that you are representing here. I mean, all of the traditions, the mystic traditions like numerology or astrology or I Ching and all that stuff is kind of an expression of this very own soul signature that we should bring into the world. Yeah. So of course you and me, we are different, and you also are totally different to me, and that's kind of the thing that we are meant to be different and meant to have a very own personality that we kind of can bring our gift to the world in our very own way. And that's kind of a soul-centric life if we are, and as you say, when we can if we can live that authentically authentic I don't know, authentically then you kind of bring your soul-centric personality into the world. Yeah. So
it's kind of like, basically, because like in my first video I talked about finding your own truth, and it seems to me that it's kind of something similar. Like you feel like the soul is kind of your truth. It's like what you want, what it's like your deepest inner kind of essence, and what you want in yourself for your life, what you don't want. And you can, if you have this connection, do I see that right? If you have this connection to the soul, it's more easy for you to actually live the life you want, the life that makes you happy.
Totally. And I love here I want to mention the work of Joseph Campbell, and maybe some of you know it. If you are from America, you may know Joseph Campbell. He's one of the greatest mythic or mythologists. He was maybe the first professor to teach mythology in kind of in our time. And he always said, follow your bliss. And this is kind of the thing to keep in mind when you are, if you want to go on the path of the soul, because you just naturally feel a kind of bliss, and it may be how do you say, it is not the same as euphoria. Okay. Euphoria is, for me, it's not the same as bliss. Because bliss is for me that which is there when you are living in your very most essence, and if you are in perfect peace with what you're doing, then you feel that bliss. And euphoria is not the same for me. Euphoria is kind of if we are overcompensating this happiness or whatever. Yeah. So this is for me a slightly different but very, very important differentiation to make.
And so euphoria, what is then euphoria? So basically, or what is, let's say, what is it that with your psychospiritual development, what is the kind of like the end? No, it's not the end, it's never an end, but I would say that kind of like, in what kind of direction does it lead you? How are you going to feel if you actually follow your soul? How is your life going to be if you follow your soul?
Well, I guess it's in somewhat perfect balance. Okay. And I don't mean in perfect harmony necessary, but in perfect balance. So I also do shadow work, and of course you will always have you always have your inner voices and your inner roles, your inner archetypes, and they will always have some kinds of up and downs. Okay. And I guess that's totally normal. But if you are truly following your purpose or your soul path, it won't be a problem, because you may have this kind of hardships, but you know that you are on the path and that it's in some way a part of this path. And you will just see the correlations and the synchronicity that maybe it is also necessary that you will experience a kind of hardship with this role or this inner voice, because it's trying to teach you something, and or it's trying to get how to say, I don't know the term in English. Erlöst.
Salvation.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Totally. Some kind of if it's kind of, or say let's say a clean way. Yeah. Or is that a good term?
Clean way of living, kind of.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah. Because if you're in the shadow, it's kind of not a. It's a shitty word, but it's not a clean way to live this part of yourself. Yeah, so you will have to transform it, and first accept it that's there, your shadow, and then you have to transform it into a potential. And if you're able to do that in every single moment, yeah. And I was talking to I was talking about it to a lady today, and she was asking the same question, because sometimes we think also with our education that you learn something once and then you're good. But that's just bullshit on the psycho-spiritual path, because you will. I tend to say that the universe always tests you. If you have learned something, like really, if you really have learned it. And when you really have learned it, you will still meet the same hardships, but you will know how to react to that. Yeah. And if you don't know yet how to react to that, it will always kind of give you the chance to learn to react in a proper way. And that's yeah.
Nice.
And then you will kind of live a fully developed life, because in a holistic way. Yeah, you have an experience to let's say everything. Okay. That's, for me, it's kind of the fulfilled life is, for me, if you have an experience to almost everything. Okay, you have had your shadow days, you had your light days, and you learn to live with both, and you have tools for to kind of handle both. Your shadow days and your maybe euphoria days, where you maybe tend to, I don't know, do very stupid stuff also, because you just feel too good. And so to kind of to bring yourself into a middle way.
And so what are some tools or some of the things that you help people with, or that you could kind of give people on their path when they want to kind of connect to their soul and actually walk this psycho-spiritual path and develop more into that knowing of what is it that they actually want, is their soul kind of path?
Yeah. Well, I'll always be very honest with people, and I say it's a long path. Not in the mystic traditions, it's called the great work, and it is a work. It's not just kind of, oh well, I go to meditate for 1 week and then I'll find my purpose and my soul, and no, it's the great work. And I would recommend to have a practice of course something to go deep in silence. Doesn't matter what. You can meditate. You can do mindful walking. You can do mindful crafts. I guess it's really not that important. I guess it's always. I guess the importance is. So
with mindful craft, you mean like doing something, creating something mindfully with your hands or something?
Yeah. If you're a person that kind of can't sit still. Then start with something very mindful to kind of keep your hands busy, so that your spirit and your consciousness can flow on its own. And maybe that's a very manly approach. I don't know. It's kind of because we men tend to kind of I need to do something with my hands, and then I'm happy. And then, well, of course, I think someone can be fully almost maybe enlightened and be a craftsman and just building chairs all of your life and be fully connected to your soul with that. And we also have a very maybe crooked crooked side on enlightenment, I guess, because one can be a craftsman and very enlightened, or whatever. And to come back to the silence, I would recommend a practice of silence, and really silence, like no hearing music, no I don't know, making thoughts of whatever, what can I do tomorrow or what can I do after that, but to really practice silence, and to kind of, and that's kind of the spiritual approach. Okay, that would be in psycho-spiritual for me that's more archetypal, more of the spiritual path. And if you look on the psychological or the psychological path, the psychic path, I would go for creative stuff, because I'm an actor since 10 years, and I know that you can do with arts and creative expression, you can heal lots of wounds or traumas, or and just get that stuff out. Okay, and it's mostly about that. It's mostly about that you kind of allow yourself to get that shit out. You know, to really live it through, and you can. And that's with the arts. It's very good. It's a very good way to do that. Of course, you can also kind of be not too thorough with that, because you can kind of say, well, I'm going to paint now a little, and well, yeah. Or you can say, wow, I feel something really coming up in myself, and I really need to get that out. And then to paint is a whole different thing. And you need to kind of allow yourself to express it all. Okay. And I always remember the time when I was in acting school, and I'm always so sorry for my mom, because I really projected lots of anger on my mom, or this image of my mom. And she didn't do anything kind of bad to me or evil, but I really had this aggression in myself, and I needed to get that out. And it was the way to do that in that case. And I don't have any problem with my mom, but I just felt it needs to get out, and I don't know why it is going towards my mom, but it has to. Obviously, it had to. I don't know why, but that's not the point. We don't need to understand it. It's just, we just need to let it flow out. And for me, creativity is one of the best tools if you really want to go deep with creativity. To kind of
And so where will creativity lead you to? Do you say like creativity is a way for you to kind of like express what's happening inside yourself, and maybe also like kind of heal or change some things that are holding you back? Or what is it actually that's happening there when you fully express the creativity?
Yeah, well, I guess we have to differentiate if creativity is one's soul path. Okay, because for me, it's creativity is my soul path in a really big way. And so I will always need to do creative stuff, and I feel that is kind of my way. But also, if you don't have kind of a soul path, that's for an artist, you still can heal very much of that, and in that way, it's a simple healing process. And I think we all are. I guess every human being is in some way creative. Okay, we all danced or painted or acted or talked or whatever. We all in some way like to create. Okay, so I would recommend everybody to find their own way to create or use their creativity to express whatever is there, and with that you can relive it. I saw it in my times when I was studying at the C.G. Jung Institute. He was doing the same. He was experiencing his shadow, his traumas, his unresolved problems, and he relieved them through creativity, expressed them, and got to know them, learned about himself, what he is expressing. You can express something, and then you can look at that stuff that you expressed, and then you can learn from that. If you know how to read it, if you know how to read the symbols, you can see, oh wow, this is really crazy, because I painted a big tree, and it has some kind of fruit on. So I can ask myself, what has to grow, or what did already grow on that tree, and what could that tree be in my life? And I think it's really amazing. Yeah.
So you're saying basically that so on, let's say, on the psycho-spiritual path, one thing is important is you get, like, basically you connect with silence in one way or the other, and then the second thing is kind of creativity, expressing yourself in a way. And do I understand that right, that you say by expressing yourself, what happens is, like, you start to get to know yourself better, you start to understand, okay, that's actually inside myself, that is actually what is going on, and you, through that process, learn about yourself, and also have the possibility to maybe live through or kind of like heal some things.
Totally.
Yeah.
Or I think the good thing about it is, well, if I work with people, I want that they get to know their shadow, or their inner roles. Okay, so because we tend to don't want to see our shadow or get in contact with it, and that's kind of the thing why we then have depression, or anxiousness, or anxieties, or whatever, because we don't want to see or approach or confrontate a part of ourselves. And through the creative process, I experienced that they come by themselves. They totally, if you just let them, they come by themselves, and through that you give them a voice. You give them a voice through yourself, and then they get how to say, they get a stage, you know. You can see them, and if your aggressive part never got a stage, or never got how to say, you never
Expressed.
So it will keep on coming. And you will keep on kind of either have autoaggressive symptoms, or you will kind of lose your temper, or whatever, until you kind of work with that.
And so can you just quickly define, so what for you is a shadow?
Yeah.
So, like, people talk a lot about shadow work, but what is actually a shadow?
A shadow in its definition is something that is in the unconscious, and that typically is repressed. Okay, so let's say the aggression. This is a very good example. In our society, aggression is not very much tolerated, because we tend to see it as violence. But aggression is also the how do you say, initiative, or brave, or whatever. It's also this kind of very, very good way of getting something
things
started.
and getting things done.
Totally. And if you are born with a very good temper, well, with a very good aggressive side, there's a potential. That's a neutral potential. And if now your parents are very, very civilized and don't want this at all, they will always kind of make you repress that. And the more you have to repress that, because it's not wanted, you have to put it away. I also a very good picture I like to use is that you come to earth, or you'll be born with a kind of a buffet. Okay, you have a kind of a table that has everything on it, like all the potentials that you can bring into the world. And when now the people, the society and your parents and whatever teachers come and say, well, but this is not really good, I don't like that at all, then you have to put it away because of your survival, because when you're not accepted, you don't survive. It's a very old instinctive mechanism, that when you're not accepted, you won't survive. You'll be cast out. So you need to put that part of you away from your very rich table, and do it in the shadow
parts of your of your consciousness.
You have to put it away, and this thing will grow to a shadow. This is kind of the repressed thing that isn't allowed to be.
So basically, shadows are parts of yourself that are you, as part of like who you are, but you don't live them.
Right.
Yeah. And so let's say you have a couple of shadows. So how can that express itself in your life? So what can happen due to you repressing some parts of yourself?
Well, they will, life always wants you to live to the fullest. Okay. I see it. Life, or the universe, or God, whatever you call it, wants you to live your fullest life. And you always get the right symbols. I talk about soul symbolic, and they always want you to see it, what you're lacking, or what is the next step. And what happens if you let the shadow in the corner, in the shadow where it belongs, it will make itself, how do you say, it will want to show itself. Okay. And what happens is there will either there are symptoms, or people will mirror it. That's when the same old story that people say, I always get the same women, I always get the same men, I always resonate, or always draw the same people into my life. That's shadow. Because these people represent something of your shadow, and it's not kind of, we always tend to see it in a very good or bad way. Okay. But if someone, I mean, classic example, a narcissist draws an empath into his life. The narcissist probably needs to learn how to develop his own empathy, or his own feelings for others. And the empath needs to kind of develop his sense of self, his sense of self-esteem, and also kind of to put barriers, because empaths tend to kind of open their arms for everyone, totally naive, kind of and they don't have any barriers. They don't say, well, but you don't, I feel you, no good, you stay away. Okay. And they probably fear that they are that this is not good, that they kind of send people away when they're not good for them. But that's totally the point. You need to learn to put barriers in front of some things. Okay? You can't open your arms for everything. That's just reality. And that's kind of the shadow from each other that they draw to themselves. And the other things are symptoms, body symptoms, or psychic symptoms. For me, that there's no. I'm a ambassador of psychosomatic, the psychosomatic teachings.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying that the shadows kind of like express themselves in your life such that you kind of find people that basically, if you want to, like, for your life to really live in balance, those shadows are going to show you the things that are not in balance in a way to actually get more into balance.
Totally.
Is that the right way? I see?
Totally right.
Yeah.
Totally right. And that's why you will develop symptoms that show you the way into balance if you want to see that. You know, I know people tend to say, well, the sickness is just sickness, and it's kind of a dysfunctional behavior of nature and of your body and stuff. But I don't believe that. I don't see it. In the meanwhile, I see that also makes totally sense. If I have kind of inflammation in my body, that's totally symbol of aggression, kind of showing you that you have to deal with that. That's an autoaggressive symptom that your body kind of attacks itself. So you need to see that you are attacking yourself. You're using your aggression against yourself and not in your life. So you probably don't use it for being innovative. You don't use it to be brave or to do kind of be a pioneer in your profession or whatever. Kind of this kind of progressive way.
Nice. So yeah, so basically for you to go on your psychospiritual path, you said the first thing is to really connect to this silence. So what is silence? And then basically understanding what are your shadows and kind of like going, and the second thing was the creativity, and then it's basically creativity is a way for you to get in contact with your shadows. You said also other ways. So what are other ways to get into contact? So basically you can, is there any way that, is there a general principle of like how you can understand what are your shadows, or how can you walk on that path? So if you haven't heard about shadow work, so how would you start?
I would start to ask yourself what you hate the most either in your life or in other people. Maybe it's even best to ask yourself what you hate most, or who's the most hated person you know, because it will one-to-one show you the shadow of yourself. Because if you say, well, it's Trump, I know that you will see something in Trump that you in yourself haven't developed or are overcompensating. Maybe secretly, because most of the time, if it's a real shadow that never has been touched before, it's secretly. You don't know that you have it because it's so much forgotten, it's so much repressed that you're not even aware that you are doing that. You know? And I mean, everybody knows somebody that does something, and everybody sees it, but he or she, herself or himself, doesn't know it or isn't aware of it. You know, but nobody would dare to tell. But you know what I mean. Exactly. And that's kind of, and these can be first steps. You know, but you have. This is kind of the way of shadow work. You have to be very honest with yourself. There's no how do you say? There's no
excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse. There's really no excuse anymore. And the more honest you are with yourself, the faster you will get through the shadow, the shadow valleys, or the shadow forest, or all these symbols that are used in the mythology and stuff. And usually, if you want to do shadow work, you just need to be honest. Actually, you just need to be honest. That's all. That's practically all you need.
Because be honest with yourself.
Yeah, well, totally. There's lots of methods and lots of you can do it creative. You can do it kind of systemic with a kind of a systemic family therapy, or with a systemic it's a board systemic board, or you can. It doesn't even matter. But you just need to be honest. You need to want to look to the kind of bad things.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because I talk, of course, because my channel is called Embodied Authenticity. I talk a lot about authenticity and being honest to yourself and also being honest to others. And I also do believe that actually honesty and really listening and really feeling what's actually true, what is not, for myself, and live that is a path to grow and also like to live what you really want to live. And it seems very similar to what you're saying, like this honesty and this like actually listening and experiencing who am I, what parts am I that I might not be living out actually.
Yeah.
And just really being honest with those parts, like actually I want to do that, I wanted to do that for years but I haven't done it yet, so what's actually there? Can I be honest with myself, really feel there? And then in your case you would say, oh, actually that's a shadow because I've repressed it. And in my way it's like I'm feeling what is going on inside myself, what do I really want. And so yeah, it's very, very interesting to see this, to hear this other perspective on basically kind of like a similar evolution of a human being, I guess.
Totally. But you need to have to get your morals clear or straight, because we tend to have all the moral systems based on society or on our parents or whatever, and we need to have them checked if the moral system is kind of a clean moral system that really shows us what's true for ourselves or what's not. Because if we are that's also a shadow system can be a collective shadow that we tend to give on or let's say give our kids and stuff. If we don't
pass on to our kids.
Yeah, right. If we don't question it, because an old collective shadow is of course sexuality. Are we willing to see what's really true about sexuality, or do we still want to kind of pass on that masturbation is kind of weird, or is kind of that can't happen, or whatever, you know. But still, then after that, need to ask ourselves, well, after that, masturbation, well, nothing to say about that. And if we say then after that, pornography, well, what's about that? And then we need to ask new questions, you know. And then there comes a new moral system maybe and everybody needs to ask these questions. What do I think about that? What does my value system say about that? And I guess that's one of the most important things, that we develop our own value system, so that we don't have to again to just take the old values or the values of society or of our parents and just use them, because most of the time they are not good for us. They may pass to you, I don't know, maybe honesty, maybe whatever, some values that are very straight or good, but still it's not really, they can be kind of not very precise for you, you know. And I guess that's questions that everybody needs to ask themselves.
Yeah, and so morals as well, it's kind of like like the morals of your family, or like people that pass it on to you. It's also kind of like, again, the same principle, that there are parts of you that you feel are not okay, and thus you have to repress them.
Totally.
So, and such that they get again to be actually a shadow. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it was really interesting to see your point on this. So just to recap, so you said, like, if someone wants to start out to kind of like on the psycho-spiritual path, said to begin with, you should connect to silence. So like understanding in one way or the other can be through walking, through meditation, through maybe conscious creating something. And then he or she should basically kind of start to express or be creative, or that's one way to actually start to feel into like what are parts of myself that might actually not be lived out fully, and what kind of stuff is happening, and then to actually be more aware and start to listen in yourself, like in your life. So where are those shadows and how do they show themselves?
Mhm.
And basically going deeper on the things that you don't express, which can be maybe because morally you think they're not okay because of some other kind of like person that passed it on to you, or some other moment when you said that actually it's maybe better to not be that way because otherwise people would be mad to me or treat me badly. And so kind of like connecting to that, and then actually going through a process of actually letting that, well, first of all being aware of it, and then somehow let it be okay, and actually let it be lived, and look at the shadow, such a kind of like the light goes to the shadow to like this part that I haven't lived.
Totally. Yeah. And I even would recommend to do shadow work first and then go on a spiritual path.
Okay.
Because, or even,
and so what is the difference between like shadow work and spiritual path? Just like to get out those things.
Yeah, I know. Of course it goes in some way together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it kind of complements itself. So you can start shadow work. You can start doing shadow work, and simultaneously start to do your silent practice, because you can also kind of lift your shadow in silence, in meditation. If something occurs in meditation, it also can be an aspect of the shadow, and kind of be resolved through that. But just to kind of keep it in mind, I would give shadow work the higher priority, just because I read a book the other day, or some few months ago. It's very good, and it tells about spiritual teachers and how they haven't done their shadow work. And these are the teachers that after that kind of how do you say, misuse their position as a teacher, and kind of get their how do you say, their
disciples.
Yeah, their disciples into trouble, or they even want to get sexually interrelated with them, or whatever. You know, all this stuff that happen when you don't have your shadows resolved. And
so do I see that right? So basically for you it's kind of like the psycho-spiritual path is, one thing is basically connecting to your soul and what you want, what is your truth, and the other thing is like what are the shadows holding me back from my truth, in a way.
Totally. Yeah, you can say that. And after that you just get into a whole state when you implement everything. And it doesn't mean that you have that you need to get violent because of that. That's not the deal. But you will need to see the potential in it, like the aggressive potential in violence, and use that. But don't get violent, because well, you can, but it's just you kind of
so basically take out what you actually what is useful for, and what is actually what's really benefiting you, and kind of like letting go of what doesn't serve you in that energy, in that kind of like aggression, or that it could also turn into violence, but it could also turn into like, I'm gonna start my business now. Right. That's kind of aggression as well.
Right. Totally.
So yeah.
Totally. And that's kind of the holistic approach that I want to teach, and mentor people in that, and go the journey with them.
Awesome. Yeah, it was awesome to have you on my channel. I thank you a lot about to basically talk to us about what psycho-spiritual development is, and this view on basically the shadows, and how your personality or how your being is kind of like composed, and how those parts influence your life and your path. So thank you very much for being on my channel. If people want to check out your stuff, or want to take coaching, or want to just know more about what you do, how can they reach you?
Well, my homepage is the-creator.life, and there you get everything else, all the informations and my contacts, and even some how do you say, some Beispiele, examples, some examples of how to kind of analyze the shadow and how to get to the shadow and stuff. So yeah. And of course you can go to Instagram, or I have some videos on YouTube also. You also find it under the name The Creator Is You. It's kind of the concept name. So yeah. Or you just can Google it, The Creator Is You, and then it spits everything else that there is.
Yeah. Perfect. I will also link it in the description of the video, so you can find it there. So thank you very much for this. Thanks everyone for listening. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more of those videos, and turn on notifications if you want to be notified. And let me know in the comments, what is your experience with shadow work? Have you ever done shadow work? Have you ever heard about psycho-spiritual development, and what is your experience with it? And let me know, and I wish you all a good day. Goodbye.